live stream.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
What do you need?
I'm just seeing that it's live streaming and then we should be good to go. All right, we're wired for sound.
We're good?
Yep.
Call to order of the meeting of Albany Full Communities. Over now.
I stopped the recording because we're live streaming, so we don't need to record.
Okay,
Okay. And,
Thanks, Jasleen.
It's October 9th at 10 o'clock and from Albany, I'm here, Bill Simcoe. The host, we've got Bill Smart. We've got Andrew and Christine from Troy. Gary, are you representing Green Island?
Green Island.
And are you also representing no, we've got, I guess we've got Mike Miller on the line from Albany Full Joint Venture Team. Chris Powers just walked in from Albany. And we've got Amy here from CDRPC and Tom here from, and Mark is on Zoom remotely with us today. So that's all present, I think, and the next order of business would be the minutes from September 11th. People want to take a second and take a look at the minutes, see if they see any need for corrections.
other than the name change that I will correct for next.
Christine's name is the typo.
Some of the, also this is a good to know that when I was the engineering expenses, I thought we were like 30%. So that's
If there aren't any other corrections, can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion.
Andrew?
I'll second.
Gary, all in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carries. Financial report from Tom White.
Okay, we have a balance of just over $19,000 in our checking account. We owe out about $5,800, and the net communities balance, when we add everybody's pluses and minuses together, 13,500. So that all balances out properly to what's in the account. We are at about 20 some odd % for the end of the year. We will add in whatever invoices are approved today, which is about 130 some odd thousand and added in today. So that will close out fiscal year 2025, and we'll submit everything over to the auditors and get that started.
Okay. Any questions? So into the fiscal year 2026.
We're already in 2026. But we won't have any transactions yet, because this group will be posted until 2025.
Okay. And the vendor invoices that we have are. Celia Smith for Cross Street, Campbell Avenue. Corporation and Albany Full Joint Venture Team. For in regard to Beaver Creek, and that invoice is going to be totally paid out of grant, so if there's no payment of that, then we'll be hitting about Albany's financing. Do I have a motion to pay the invoices?
I'll make one.
Gary, have a second?
Second.
Andrew, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, see disbursements and reconciliations. I think, Joel just had something that got submitted and has gotten disbursement yet, but that's, coming or come today or something like that.
So Paul sent me one for 16 or 15 or $16,000, and then he sent me another one for $117,000. I just got the receipt there from them yesterday. And I sent a copy of it to Karen,
Okay,
so she has a copy of that with the new cost summary. And all that, so.
okay, so we'll get that onto the SharePoint so that,
I'll pull it down.
and, I think, we still haven't, we didn't have a bi-weekly meeting with EFC this week, but, the next one we'll find out, what's going on with Carver and Arcadis' stuff for Cahoes. It seemed to have been held up, but
We
I don't
need
know.
to do that, we need to find out where they are with the Manor Avenue report, because we still haven't got to get back from them.
So Manor Avenue, you're waiting for approval of the
Report.
preliminary engineers report and, but Carver's contract was, didn't have its DBE.
And they still don't. They sent their final, best effort to get a variance or a waiver to Arcadis. Arcadis has it in hand, they're reviewing it before they send it on. So hopefully that'll take place today or tomorrow or sometime soon. And we'll hopefully get something back from them soon, and then we can move forward. Like,
Yeah,
Okay.
Bill, I talked to them, yesterday,
okay.
and, it is in Arcadis's hands for them to review what Carver submitted to them, because they want to make sure that everything that Brenda wanted is outlined and detailed before me sending it to Brenda and that she has issues with it, so. And I talked to them last night, so I should be getting that back from them, I would say by early next week.
Hey, hi Sharon, I didn't get you on the roll call, but, Sharon is here from, Cahoes. Sharon, did you hear anything more on Arcadis's, disbursement status?
No, I have not.
Okay. So that's, I think, all we have in regard to EFC disbursements. We still needed to get some invoicing out through Tom, so we could reconcile between different communities, so.
I should have all the individual invoices out to all the communities no later than the end of this month. It's a lot of details when you get it, but the most will be going, well, everybody gets the same number of invoices. Because everything's split exactly, so, but the dollars and cents are Albany and Troy primarily. So it'll go in two batches, as I mentioned to Bill before, all the EFC approved dollars will be matched up to the invoices. There are some discrepancies in that. We'll deal with that as everything settles out. And then the second thing, or anything that hasn't been run through EFC, there'll be a second batch of invoices, so kind of keep them at least functionally readable. You're talking about many hundreds of invoices.
Yeah.
So,
How large is the portion that's not run through EFC? It's gotta be pretty small, I'm guessing, right?
Well, mostly it was only Albany and Troy that had EFC.
they're like
finances.
all the co-host stuff
Yeah.
is not.
It's all separate.
That's all separate.
Uh,
So that's part of the issue with the co-hosts is that because they did everything with their own bonding and bands and everything else, the reality of life is that we didn't have the EFC approvals that our bylaws reference. So it just delays everything.
But those approvals should have been, because we had talked and in order for even Albany to have drawn down on any of them. Albany had to show that those approvals were obtained. So on Columbia Street Phase 2 and on the bike path and whatever.
Well,
So,
I think so when Tom goes through and he sees what's been dispersed, he's making up the invoicing,
That matches.
the
what's been
matches, and
dispersed.
then we have the backup in Albany on those invoices so that we can show our budget and so it could get paid because they want to see,
Right.
they want to see the backup.
Right, so that's in that second batch of information that I'm sending.
But I guess from the communities that didn't have a financing, they wouldn't have the disbursement thing for.
Correct, so it's an independent set of invoices, it's the same items that we'll be sending out, they won't look any different, it's just one matches up to EFC disbursements and one doesn't.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And you know,
So
I'm fixing,
those in the second tranche, so to speak.
Yeah.
Of disbursements.
and then,
how-
and then the other thing that is causing a bit of a delay is the old stuff. That is really, a lot of it's not part of the control plan projects per se.
Well,
But there's administrative costs and insurance stuff and everything else back there. That's gonna be further down the line, but that's also a relative.
well, and how grants were handled by EFCs.
And that's the reconciliation we have to do when everything else
Because they
settles out,
kind
because
of
at this point,
did that in a random,
yeah, they applied grants differently than the way the communities applied grants.
they didn't necessarily apply them to the right line items.
Yes,
That's just we think.
particular invoices. So in other words, I know there's one fairly large one that you and I dealt with, not last year. It was, give or take a $600,000 amount of, a pay app. That a portion of it was applied to a grant on EFC, so they only dispersed a smaller amount than what we had actually said each community owes. So,
Yeah, it was pretty consistent that they actually distributed a small amount to be submitted.
yeah,
On virtually every item, so there's a balance there that coming out of pocket for.
yeah, and at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to adjusting the books of the CSO corporation to match the EFC on those items. So that what happens is if the city of Albany, if Albany Water Board was billed $100,000, but on our books, it should have been $200,000. We'll make that adjustment at the end of the day, and should simply shift the application of the prior grants that have already been taken care of to where EFC applied them. So that we then match up the numbers, but I can't do that till everything's pretty much done. So that will do, those final dribs and drabs will be taken care of.
So we're getting closer to done. Which gets us to project updates. Now, there's two projects that we asked for some extension of dates. One was on the Cross Street Campbell Avenue project, the other was on our Liberty. Our Liberty CSO removal. We didn't really hear back, I don't think officially from DC. We're having a DC quarterly meeting, then we can ask them about that, but I think it was mentioned about Martin, in the past, Martin had prepared letters of non-compliance or certificate of non-compliance. I think we still have to do a non-compliance in regard to these couple of things because we're not meeting the dates. We had a September 30th date for plans and specs for Liberty, but because Liberty Park is that area with a proposed soccer stadium or some other development, we're not, we didn't want to go ahead and do something that was gonna be not right for that vicinity. So we'll hear from DC about that this afternoon, but we'll probably need to provide those letters. So, Mark, you wanna do that or have Martin assist, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I'll put that together, and I'm also delinquent in collecting and sending along the various certifications for a couple of different projects. So I'll get to work on that as well.
Okay, thanks. And project updates, I think the most active projects at the moment are Troy's sewer lighting project for you can call Cross Street, you call Campbell.
Yeah, so we had a pre-construction meeting with National Water Main Cleaning Company last week. They plan on getting their cleaning and CCTV work done by the end of this month. In the meantime, ordering their lining materials, and then they're gonna do the excavation and, their 30 feet of pipe replacement, they're gonna do that. And then move into the lining. They expect that the construction work would take maybe 5 to 7 working days, and then he only said 2 or 3 days for the lining. With the goal of having all of that done before December 15th. And to meet the deadline, and because Campbell Avenue is pretty busy, so we wanted to get that to like a final pavement restoration. And not have like cold patch there to try to, keep an eye on that all winter would be hectic, so.
Okay,
So far, so good, it looks like it might happen.
okay. And you sent over the notice to proceed,
I did, yes,
so
to Ryan, I do believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the mark, if we're sending sending something in, we might want to attach that notice to proceed, just.
Hmm.
Yes, sir.
As that was tardy, but it now has been done, so.
Right. Yeah, I did one request and then a second request. I think it was due by 10/1.
So we asked for an extension, now we've done the notice to proceed, and we think we'll meet the deadline for completion.
Yes, yes, I think so. If it starts to look a little bit like we're not gonna get there, I'll let everyone know and then we'll go from there, but.
Okay, yeah, I guess if we're not, we'd just like to identify a date
Yep,
okay, and then project known as Little C.
Things moving along, Carver is continuing to do submittals, and moving them as they go. All the major stuff is done, like I said, the critical path is gonna be driven by the receipt of the generator. But other than that, they should be mobilized and working within the end of the month.
Yeah, so we think it'll be beneficial use by December or something?
What? Say that again? I didn't.
Beneficial use,
Yeah. December. They're looking at receipt of the generator. December, I think. We're gonna blow by our substantial completion date, we know that, but that was an arbitrary number, right? So,
okay, and Manor Avenue, you're waiting for a preliminary engineer's report to be approved, and
it's all we're waiting for. And both Harvard said that they will immediately turn this thing around as quickly as they can, so it shouldn't take too long because it's not a lot.
Yeah, EFC stalls 25,000 as soon as they approve that we've done.
and yeah, our other CSO removal is Skylar, which is in the middle of Albany Housing Authority, Steamboat Square. And we're kind of coordinating with them, regarding what we're gonna do there. Actually, they built a maintenance building on top of a CSO building. So we're needing to make a new connection to the county interceptor. And do it not inside their maintenance building. So we're coordinating with them on that too, because we're needing to get easements from housing authority to take care of that. So we're working on that, even though that's a little bit further on deadline. And the only other thing that we needed to discuss, which you have a copy of it in the packet, is the post-construction compliance monitoring plan. And Mike's on, so we can ask him a little bit. I know you just got this, so it's a little bit of reading and absorbing, because it's got some comments back and forth with DC, and then it's got the more of the plan included in here. But I think the question about whether we had to do the Terracotta, it wasn't really part of that we were calling out as the post-construction compliance monitoring plan. So I think we're only showing doing fecal coal form And, but it would appear that, we're doing all of these shore and bridge and boat sampling for 16 to 25 weeks, starting first week of May. And I think that we needed to come up with a plan before then of how we were gonna do this kind of what we might be able to do, providing boat and crew. And whether we were gonna be able to find people to do the sampling, or whether we're gonna be looking to the joint venture team. To be doing more of the sampling and coordination with the land. I know we don't do fecal coliform in our Albany Water Department lab. I think maybe the county school district. Do they lose their ELAP certification, or do they get it back again? Or?
I don't know if they got it back, they were restricted to only doing what was necessary for the plan. So whether that restriction has been lifted or not, I know it wasn't as of a few months ago. We've got a district meeting on the 22nd. So I can ask, but I suspect that they're not gonna be able to do anything.
Yeah, it's a lot of samples, so.
Yeah,
So, yeah, like on page 4 of the actual. Program, it talks about 23 samples. So to be able to collect all these samples and do them once a week. I don't know if that's gonna really require more than one crew of people to be doing this. But it's an undertaking.
yeah. Do we have to do all the transects?
It's limited transects, Gary. There's some of the transects are just bridge samples. There's really only 2 river transects that we have to get from a boat. That's the one, I think, just downstream of bridge, or Route 378, and then on the downstream limits of the city of Albany and Rensselaer.
Yeah, 6
So,
and 9. 6
6 and 9. Everything else is taken from the land. So the good news is we only have to get a boat in the water in one place downstream. The bad news is we need a boat.
Well, I think. Albany County Sewer District. And I can double check on this the end of the month. Indicated that they've still got a boat. They didn't have. Personnel to lend us with a boat, but they did have a boat. And Andrew, I think you were gonna check to see if I had a boat.
Yeah,
Try fire.
I'll call Jared when I leave here before I forget again like I did last time. And
That comes with age.
yeah, so I'm hoping that, in a perfect world, it seems like we only have to go to RT6 and RT9, and that's how often? Once a week for
Once-
23?
Once a week for between 16 and 25 weeks.
Weeks,
We
okay.
said we'd do 4 months. But depending on whether we have that wet weather events,
Mhm.
it was gonna be 1 day a week. You pick the same day. And then see what, after 16 weeks, see whether some of those days were after wet weather events.
Right,
Okay, right, because you'd want to try to avoid wet weather sampling. But
No,
after,
actually, they want you to collect a certain amount. What you don't want to
Yeah.
do is bias your results. Right? You don't want to simply cherry pick the wet weather events to make DEC happy, because that's going to drive us into non-compliance.
you don't want that.
We had We
You
need
know.
five, we need 5 wet weather events.
Yeah, so
Like we go every Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning for 16 weeks, regardless of the weather, and then, or
Right.
something like that. Okay,
Yeah, and then we reevaluate.
okay.
Yeah.
Be great if we could use this boat and have them drive it. That would be ideal, cause you don't want me to do that.
He may not come back.
And you need a license now to drive a boat.
Yeah, I don't have.
We get the rowing team.
That would be a great idea.
Yeah.
And you need the boat to be able to,
Are they?
you need the boat to be able to go to the particular lat long is shown on page 4. So I suppose boats now have GPS, so you can something.
Not all of us could follow GPS.
But it's pretty specific about lat longs to 6 decimal points in.
Yeah.
And if self-performing the sampling doesn't work out for whatever reason, is the plan B to hire a company to do this stuff?
Well, that's a question, and I guess for the joint venture team, would the joint venture team be thinking they could potentially do this, or would the
Yeah,
joint venture?
I think anything is possible. I think the joint venture team could. You know, one of the big questions is where's the boat coming from? You know, if you need the joint venture team to secure a boat, it's possible Arcadis has a boat still. It's possible. We can check on that. But then we're paying for an Arcadis, quote unquote captain to be on the boat. And then in terms of the collection sampling, you probably want a couple guys out on the boat. Obviously, it's cheaper if we're using municipal resources, And then, whoever's doing the program has to be committed to getting the samples to the lab if we're going to a lab or, again, working out where the samples are being done. So
that's-
the joint venture could do it all. I think it's not, ironically, this isn't covered by EFC, right? It's not eligible for grant money or anything else through EFC. I don't even know if it's fine. Do you finance it through EFC, Bill?
No.
So therefore,
Depending on
Wednesdays
depending
are
on the
good.
cost, we have some money left over on our DOS grant
all right, so
for the joint venture team.
yeah, the only thing we would have to know is what the grant requirements dictate and if we have to try and hire a sub-consultant to meet MWBE criteria or something to support the program or support the grant.
All
That's
right.
all. So anything is possible. Obviously, the cheapest thing to do is to man it with as many resources as we can to keep the cost down. But at the end of the day, we just got to ask ourselves those basic questions. What do we have a boat? Don't we have a boat? Do we have personnel that can go and collect samples or not? And then you tell us what you need and we'll backfill accordingly. At the end of the day, there's going to be some interpretation and reporting on the results. I would assume that as a minimum would probably come back through the joint venture.
Yeah,
The analysis, okay, well, I guess the thing about the boat is you have to have parties that are willing to do 16 to 25 consecutive weeks, or we need coverage in case
Right,
we,
right.
somebody can't do it, then we got a backup plan.
Right, I'll contact Jared, fire department, ask him, and then just let him know like of the, overall frequency of the program, and then. One thing being it's the fire department's emergency boat, what if we, start this program, we're at week 13, 14, we've done great for a while, but then they actually need it for an emergency, and then like, I just don't wanna be.
Yeah, I'm thinking we can work around that, just so
Okay.
you know. If there's if we set up a program and we're using municipal resources like a fireboat,
Yeah,
I think there would be an understanding with DEC that we could come back the next day and pick up those samples if that boat was being used for an emergency. I guess you have to ask yourself, Andrew, what is the
Mhm.
likelihood of that happening? Is it
I've never seen it move.
because I'm guessing the likelihood is very low. But if it
Exactly.
happened, we would deal with it. If it happened 5 times in a row, DEC might, say, geez, what's
Right.
going on?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think they would look for, an excuse to maybe get out on the boat also. So they might be motivated to try this.
No,
Well,
I love the idea. If we can pull it off, that's the simplest thing.
Right.
well, and are the communities willing to provide some compensation if it's,
Right. Some kind of, yeah.
like it's kind of like a force account thing if,
Yeah, or, if we have the boat and then a couple people do the sampling, if we could find a couple people to do the sampling, I think we could work something out like that. I think that'd be reasonable. So, but I'd probably tag along. Cause it sounds fun. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
Fishing pole and life jacket.
Right.
Fishing pool for that, Jed.
yeah, so if there's,
I'll feel them out on it and then
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
yeah,
Okay.
if it's a commitment every week for a certain amount of time, within our group here, we're willing to pay for some people's time.
Mm.
Will that make it easier to get a commitment?
Right.
Well, I think it would be appropriate to have the CSO pick up the tab, whatever those expenses might be, could personnel, gas.
Right, the
Whatever.
cost of running the
And I think that
samples.
it also would make sense that if the fire company were to agree to that,
Mhm.
then, personnel coming from Troy Fire to run the boat,
Right, there'd be
And
one or
then
two people.
communities providing staff to do the sampling, all of that can be accounted for on their pay rate per hour.
Yeah,
And that bill can then be generated as a force and
Yeah,
submitted for reimbursement.
Mhm.
yeah, we don't have to, we're not going through EFC, but if we want to like internally, to our community, to our group, figure out what the force account proposal for our portion.
And I'm assuming that when we do the river sampling, we're gonna be doing the tributaries at the same time?
Correct.
Well, eh,
That could be the same people. It could be different people, depending on how you want to staff it.
if you want to
And-
do it all in one day, um, then, it could be multiple folks. Depending on what lab was picked, to do the eco sampling, we've been using Adirondack for stuff we're doing with.
Yeah.
Beaver Creek Satellite Treatment Facility. I don't know if there's some other local labs that could be, so we could get some competitive prices.
Used to talk to, was it Capital Region Environmental Lab, they're right there on, as you're coming up out of the hill in Rensselaer on the left there, right by Regeneron. So just maybe see what the pricing is. I think it's like $40 or $45 per sample.
Yeah, I think we're talking about 500 samples or so.
It's volume wise, it's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure that, that price is for one singular sample, that could probably come down if you're gonna bring, 400 or 500 of them.
Yeah. Mark, would that be something that, we could work with, you with, in regard to maybe getting a lab, RFP out or something?
Sure. But, so I'm assuming the number of samples, so I can do the math, is in the document that you're all looking at.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you go that way, just factor in the cost for delivery of samples. So that you're not just basing it off of the lowest sampling test. Because if you have to pack stuff up and, we have holding times and everything else we have to deal with. So you may want to factor in that convenience. If it was me, I would probably pre-select, pre-qualify 2 or 3 labs and just ask them for independent pricing. Labs that are accessible and easy for the sampling drop-offs.
Yeah, and Mike, if, you could provide the technical part of, in regard to this, RFP. uh,
Yeah, we can work with Mark on that.
Okay. And, in terms of people to do the sampling, are we gonna want the joint venture team to be the samplers?
Who is the joint venture team? Might be a silly question, but
CHA,
and then just find some of like junior engineers to come and do it at their
I
rate
think
or,
they were involved in the previous,
okay.
is that correct, Mike? Like CHA had some,
We were involved heavily in the original wet weather monitoring stuff. For the 3-year program, I think it was largely municipal staff, to be honest. I don't remember having a heavy lift in that. I think it was, back in 15, 16, 17. I think it was largely a kind of a work share agreement. I think some people from Rensselaer County would go out, and some other folks. Again, if you're worried about chain of command stuff and that type of thing, we could assign one person to kind of oversee the operation and supplement them with other people on the boat if that's what you want to do. If you want us to just provide 2 people and have them go around and collect all the samples at the tribs and at the treatment plants and then arrange for deliveries, then we can do that too. It's really comes down to what resources you guys have available and whether it's really worth your time and effort to do it.
yeah, I know we don't really have people to be able to,
I don't think the house, I don't think we should get a proposal from them.
yeah, we should get a,
That's a good idea. Yeah.
because, we had to commit every week for 16 to 25 weeks. Is,
Yeah, it's a commitment.
Yeah.
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 Well, we did it when we did the original sample. But unfortunately, almost all the staffs aren't as large as they used to be anymore.
Right,
I mean, we don't have the, well, I was just the same people.
right.
So we're gonna need to do 2 rounds of this, we're gonna need to do 2026, I see it, originally it was gonna be 2022 and then 2027.
Yeah, these are kind of melding together, aren't they?
Or are we gonna do 5 years after 2026?
I think the original plan, as it was this upcoming round was going to happen after the Beaver Creek project, because that's what the timing allowed, and then we were really doing it at the end of the program. So I would say whenever we're substantially complete on our last project, then the next recreational season is going to trip that requirement. So if we're going out in 26, it might be 28 or 29 before we go out again. Depending on when we actually wrap up on all these the few projects that are left. Or to be honest, we may tell DEC, listen, we're primarily done with our program. There's really no reason to have a gap. Let's just collect the 2 years back to back and see how we fare. That's going to be a board decision. Do you want to extend it out, or do you want to just try and get it over with?
Well, what we've done except for Manor Ave and our 2 CSO eliminations with the smaller.
Correct. And I'm not
smaller-
sure any of those projects are really large enough to move a water quality sample, result in the river.
Yeah. So 2026 is pretty much gonna be show what it is. But we know one set of samples won't necessarily tell the whole story, depending on what's going on with weather in the river.
Well, like we talked about before too, Bill, is when we did the original sampling, remember we had some anomalies happening in the river? If we go back and we experience those same type of anomalies, it may trigger the second year of sampling anyways.
Yeah,
What were some of the anomalies?
Well, one of the anomalies was a high downstream which we're kind of wondering if there was something going on at the port or what was happening. It was like fall weather. Um, so.
Yeah, it wasn't even necessarily related to wet weather, right?
Yeah. So that,
Is partnering with Riverkeeper to do the sampling completely off the table?
I do not feel warm and fuzzy, having river.
Oh, we could see if they wanted to sign an NDA, so they couldn't disclose the data.
No such thing with them.
they're doing sampling anyway, but this is a commitment this is kind of our commitment to do 16 to 25 weeks at a certain time each week and for a certain number of wet weather events.
Yeah, and if my memory serves me right, when we did the original sampling, whatever, Riverkeeper happened to say it didn't match with some of their sampling results. Well, we don't know how they took the samples. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I think I personally, and I'm not saying this because I'm biased in any way. You know, again, if you guys can staff this stuff yourself, I'm all for it. So I'm not arguing to try and get work for the joint venture. I'm just strictly talking strategically. I would want to control the data. If I was
yes,
in Bill's shoes or Gary's shoes or I would want to control the data because Riverkeeper, if there's a way for them to test it in a manner that's going to indicate a water quality violation, they will find it. Right? We will abide by the terms of the post-construction compliance monitoring program and monitor in the river where we recommend. They will go right to a CSO discharge and start collecting stuff, which of course is going to have the highest concentration. There'll be less dilution along right at the point discharge. So I would want to control the data myself. But that's a
Well, it
board
sounds like the
decision.
consensus is that's off the table.
Yeah,
yes.
I think what we would do, Mark, I know you sent some of the data out before. I think it's interesting for us to look at, and we can look at it and possibly respond to it or include it in our annual report. I just don't think you want to give control over this program to Riverkeeper and have them influence it in that way. That's all.
Yeah, I think if we were gonna get a proposal from other parties, we would need to get more proposals from more other parties.
Independent parties, and I don't consider Riverkeeper an independent party. That's all.
But I guess one question I still have about the transects and the lats and longs indicated is to what extent in the past sampling were those lat and longs, you know, how precisely were the boats?
I don't think this is the 2 decimal place answer you think it is, Bill. I think we can, first of all, if we want, we can document exactly where the sample was taken. I think as long as we're in the proximity of what we said in that plan, we're fine. Right? This is not a 3-4 decimal place answer. If we're downstream of the 378 bridge, whether it's 50 feet downstream, 75 feet downstream, 100 feet downstream, it doesn't matter. We're mid pool community. That's the intent.
Yeah,
Transect 9 is down at the end of the city. We're downstream of the treatment plants, both Albany's and East Greenbush. Again, if we're within a couple 100 feet of those locations, we're fine. We can take the lat long where we take the sample. We can probably get close enough, but this is not a 3 or 4 place decimal. It's
okay.
we need to be in the vicinity of those points. That's
So if somebody uses their phone to get a lat and long.
it's fine. Oh my God, it's fine, Bill.
Yeah,
But we might also want to have some other yardstick, like how far we want to be off the shoreline with these.
Right, it's like here, where in the middle of yeah,
We should probably look back to see what we did last time.
that's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah,
And
keep in
just-
mind the further, you don't want to hug the shore because that's where you're going to have the highest concentration of pollutants. We have a plan. We've called out lat long. They're not immediately adjacent to the shore. And that's the type of thing River Keeper would want to do. They would want to influence those collection points to be closer to the shore, closer to the discharges.
Okay. So, then in regard to this, we're going to do a little more research in regard to the boat and the crew.
Yep.
Yeah,
And the
It's
joint-
very helpful to have the scope of work now. So when we
yeah.
engage these people, we can say what the commitment is.
Yeah. And the joint venture team, if you could give us a proposal in regard to the. Being able to provide the people to do the sampling and the analysis afterwards.
Yep.
And CDRPC, if you could help us put together a RFP for the lab samples. And then we'll talk about it at the next meeting. And May 1st is coming, so we better.
Right, yeah,
Ready.
we gotta iron it out now, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's, is there any other business that we need to discuss? And our next meeting is when?
November 13th.
November 13th.
So, no,
No.
election day is the week before.
Okay, so we'll have some newly electeds. Or we'll have some people that have been voted.
Mhm, mhm.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
There we go.
Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
I take on a reading question.
I saw that.
Okay.
Yes.
The answer, I would suggest the answer is,
Bye, Sharon.
Today.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
I was just.
I would reference it in the